Hi everyone, I'm Mackenzie and I'm going to be teaching you how to make this dress. So first I'm going to draft the pattern and I have my design laying next to me, and so I am drafting a sweetheart neckline and then I'm going to fit it to myself so that it will fit me well. And see, there I am trying it on to make sure it fits. So that's the first step, and then I'm going to start drafting the darts. So you just want to keep trying that on, and then once you finish that, you will cut out your fabric. And I used this nice fabric that I found on Etsy. It was actually fairly cheap, only about $17 for 3 yards of fabric, and it was exactly what I wanted, so I really liked how pretty it was. And then you'll cut out 2 of the liner for the front and back. Oh yeah, the back is just the same as the front but without the sweetheart neckline. So I'm cutting out one of the front in the regular or in the liner, and then I'm going to cut out another one of the front in the liner again, and this will give the dress a clean look. It's kind of hard to tell on the black fabric that I'm doing that. Yeah, and then I'm going to cut out 2 of the liner in the back and the back, and then I'm going to start sewing everything and sewing the top fabric to the liner fabric just so that it stays in place, because I don't want it flying around. I am sewing the back fashion fabric to the liner fabric. So here I am just pinning it all, and then I'm going to sew it so it stays in place just like the front. And then I'm just drafting the darts. You can't really see it that well, but I am sewing the darts down now, and you should basically just do it where you want the dress to lie. So I was using some chalk to draft the darts. You can also use a pen, but pen doesn't show up very well on black fabric. And so then I trim the excess from the darts. And now I'm sewing the front and the liner together with right sides facing each other. And now I'm going to turn it inside out and trim the extra so that it sits really nicely. And once I've done all that, I'm going to understitch it so the seam will lie on the side that is the liner fabric. And then after that, you basically have the front of your dress, and so then you sew the back to the liner fabric with right sides facing each other and understitch. And then I'm just trimming some extra stuff. Oh, and I cut the back into 2 and sewed the sides together with the liner and fashion fabric open from each other. So here I am trimming off some of the extra fabric from this piece of fabric to make it into a rectangle. And also my friends came over because they wanted to play with my dog. So there I was basting the dress so that I could ruffle it, and here I am just ruffling and talking to 2 of my friends. So you basically just pull one side of the stitches that's not backstitched so that you get a nice ruffle, and then I sewed the 2 pieces of fabric together. And there I was still talking to my friends while I did stuff, so I'm sewing that to the other side now too. I think I should do like this much. The creative process. I don't know. Anyways, we'll get back to the show. So I wasn't sure how much fabric I needed, so I just laid on it and tried to roll and see what would be a good amount. And then I did the same thing. I basted the fashion fabric and then I pulled it to ruffle it, and now I'm pinning the bodice to the front of the fashion fabric, and then I'm going to sew it in place so that I will have a skirt for just the fashion fabric, so just for the see-through part. And then I'm sewing down the seam so that you can't see it on the other side because this fabric is sheer. So here you can see my progress. Yep. And then I am doing the same thing to the liner fabric, and I am just sewing it. I'm pinning it right now, and then I'm going to sew it to the bodice on the other side so that the skirt will be not sheer. And my camera seemed to move, so you can't really see the machine, but you can't see me. So you can just watch me sewing really fast. And here I am. I was really happy with that. I had my skirt, and so I made a lot of progress. And then I wanted to top stitch over the darts so that they would lay in place. You can't really see what I'm doing, but that's what I was doing. I was top stitching the darts in place. And here I am moving on to the sleeve. So for the sleeve, I already had a puff sleeve pattern laying around, and I didn't want to have to figure out my size again. So I just used that and made it longer because I wanted long sleeves. And I measured my arm to figure that out. And then once I had the piece of fabric, I used that piece of fabric as the pattern because I thought it was a little bit easier to cut on. And so I cut around that piece of fabric. And then this is me sewing the sleeve together so that it will stay at the bottom. And then I sewed down the top of the sleeve where it met my armhole area, and then I pinned it in place at the bottom and sewed that down as well, and then was going to use elastic to ruffle it. So I wanted these to be puff sleeves, and for puff sleeves you have to use elastic. There's me and my cat just fighting over space. And here I am hemming the bottom of the sleeve, but leaving enough space so that I can have a little bit of a puff at the bottom. So I was just making a channel for the elastic and trying on the sleeve. And I did that for the other sleeve as well. And here I am just sewing the sleeve and making sure that it will fit me. So here's the progress I made. So I sewed down the sleeve to the armhole area, and then I did the same thing for the other sleeve. And then I sewed the other sleeve down in place, and so then I finally had two sleeves and a dress. It just wasn't connected in the back. So here I am trying it on with my arms. Now we're going to move on, and I was just putting the elastic in place and then sewing it down so that it would remain puff, and here I am with the dress on. Yes. And then I moved on to do the elastic in the wrist holes. So the elastic was going to puff at the shoulder and at the wrist. And then my dad came into the room to talk to me, and then he left. And so I just kept sewing, and then I sewed the elastic down, and then I tried it on. So this is the progress I made on my dress. Very nice. And then I was going to move on to sewing the zipper in place. So I pinned it to one side open, and then I had to stop and zip it up and then finish sewing the zipper down. And this is an invisible zipper, so I used an invisible zipper foot as well to make it really clean. And so I sewed it down on one side, and then I finished the zipper, and it looked very nice. So once I was done with that, I needed to cut some extra fabric off because I made it too big, except my cat kept messing with my fabric, but that's okay. And then I sewed it down in place all along the bottom, and I sewed it down on the liner fabric. So I wanted the liner and the fashion fabric to stay separate so that it could kind of have a nice flow and look airy. So now here's me going around and hemming the liner fabric really quickly, and there we have it. This is my dress, and I wore this on Halloween to be a witch, but it also works for other things. Thanks for watching.